As the saying goes, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Today on Across the Fence, we're learning from activist and organizer Rosalyn Pelles, who delivered the MLK Celebration address here at UVM's Ira Allen Chapel in January.
There are many times that have challenged my resolve. One of those times was the Greensboro Massacre in 1979, when Ku Klux Klan and Nazis in a caravan drove into a black community down a very narrow street where folks were preparing for an anti-Klan march and opened fire on people getting ready for a peaceful march on a Saturday morning. At the end of the day, 5 people were dead and 11 folks were wounded, including my husband. Other challenges I've had other challenges to my resolve. This was probably one of the greatest.
Rosalyn Pelles, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you today.
I'm glad to be here.
I want to ask just a few questions about Greensboro. Why were you at the protest that day?
Greensboro is really important to me. It's a demarcation in my life where my beliefs and my resilience and my faith and understanding of my purpose all come together in one place. And so I was there because there was a rise in the Klan in the country. And I understood, and we understood, because we were working in factories and hospitals, et cetera, with people from all races and all classes, we understand that the mission of the Klan and the Nazis was to divide the working class. This whole notion of the rise of the Klan is centered in, and we see it today, is centered in so much more than just this rise of rhetoric and hatred and backlash. It's centered in trying to keep people in their place and trying to keep people from having a true understanding of why they are situated where they are and why their lives and their families are situated where they are. Soon after the march, we were going to have a conference. So that's important because it wasn't just about protesting, it was also about educating. And so people were invited from our workplaces to come and talk and share kind of what we all saw as happening then. The rally and protest and march was part of it, but the other part, the education, was just as important, and what would happen in that setting, and we never got there.
What do you remember about that day? What do you most remember? If you don't mind my asking.
I was with, when the caravan came in, and it was just a wonderful November day, North Carolina November day. And this car caravan comes through, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're here to scare us. And then they went through, and then one car stopped. And I could hear people opening their car doors. And I knew at that moment that this was not just harassment. And so it was pretty clear pretty soon that it was an attack. And there were children there. My own children would have been there, but there was a change in their schedule. And so we retreated into the homes in that community where people who we did not know opened their doors and took their own risk that day. And so, but one of the, and so I remember most is coming back after there was silence and walking to place after place after place, seeing people on the ground. That's what I remember most. And Caesar Cauce, who was one of the people that was murdered, was dressed similarly to my husband. And they had kind of frizzy, curly hair and so forth. And for a minute, I thought, that is Don Pelles laying there. because I had not seen him since we first arrived earlier during the day. And it was not him, but it was Caesar. And then there were others. There was Bill, there was this one, there was Paul, and it was just, I could only walk one by one to watch. And then all the commotion afterwards. There were no police, no emergency help. So we were taking care of ourselves and wondering where the police and where the doctors were, where the ambulances were, because our people were dying on the street. So that's what I remember that day. And I remember the community. I was struck so much by the people opening their doors, and they were not afraid, but those are my memories from that day.
Thank you very much for sharing that with me. That nonviolent, the protest in Greensboro, it all escalated really quickly.
Yes.
You know, you just recounted that. Given the type of state violence that protesters and resistors are experiencing in cities around the United States today, is there anything you think they can learn from your experience in Greensboro?
The first thing is what you mentioned, and it has to do with how quickly things can change. Mm-hmm. And I think there has to be, people have to go into those situations clear-eyed and have to always be alert. And that's especially true now, because things can change. And there has to be some thinking about the whole time what's happening around you. Greensboro was state assisted, and that's not hyperbole, that's fact. The Klan and Nazis were assisted, mm-hmm. and then the police left the scene. And what we're now seeing is something even more direct. And so people have to really think about what they're walking into. Mm-hmm. People have to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, our democracy depends on it. Mm-hmm. But so people have to be sure that they understand what they're walking into, what they're seeing, and also just be prepared for it.
This is such a overwhelming thing to have experienced, mm-hmm. and yet you did, and yet you're here. And yet, always continued to be an activist and an organizer. And that speaks to a quality of resilience. And you spoke really eloquently about it in your talk at UVM. Can you tell us a little bit about how resilience is so important when we have goals of resistance?
Well, resilience is important because you're in the fight long enough to outlive the opposition, to go beyond the tactics and the strategies that they have. They are counting on all of us not being able to sit there and to sit them out. They're counting on life getting in the way, and it does. They're counting on lies and misinformation. They're counting on every single thing that will make people just go home and sit down. And some of those things they create, the harassment. And we're seeing so much of that today, so much harassment, so much chaos. They create chaos. Every day there's something new. And that's been my experience. And what we have to do is to figure out our place. I think the most important thing is purpose. Just a grounding and understanding what it is you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that goes for the person and for the movement. Because it's not about being tough. It is not about being just grinding it out. That doesn't get you there.
What advice or wisdom would you share with young resistors today?
I mean, it has to be understood that protest, and nonviolent protest in particular, is scary. I mean, it's not that people go in and they're bold and no matter what, all these people that we see who are taking all these risks, they have to fortify themselves to walk into those spaces. And I remember as a kid being really scared, but having enough faith in what I heard about what I knew I was doing, and also the people around me. People have to know their own limitations. People have to know their own limitations. And it's for themselves, and it also is for the movement. So if a person doesn't think they can be nonviolent, or if they in any way they think they have limitations, they need to think about, well, how do these limitations impact the movement? Because that's what's critical now, right now. That's what's critical, is building this movement, and hopefully Minneapolis and what we're seeing around the country moves beyond a moment. That is a problem. We have to move beyond these moments and build something. And we've all lived through these moments. And had we built sufficiently and strong enough, we wouldn't have to be rebuilding now. A gentleman last night was saying that 650 pastors came from other places into Minneapolis. Do they have those names? And can they call those pastors to be not only in Minneapolis, but can they call those pastors to make sure their congregations are out back in New York? So that has to be part of this movement building. In the absence of that, we'll have moments. And this time that we're in, we can't. It's too much at stake just to have moments.
What I really appreciate is that in this conversation, you have offered some really remarkable and informed insights into how do you do it personally, how do you prepare yourself personally, and also that you just gave some advice that shows how you've never stopped thinking like an organizer. We have to take care of ourselves, but you also have to remember to get the phone numbers so that you're ready to build the next coalition.
That's right.
And you're ready for the next phase.
That's right.
That we don't just think that one sign's going to change everything.
That's right.
Wow.
That's exactly right.
I cannot tell you how much I have appreciated you taking the time to talk with me today and sharing all of this with our audience.
Okay.
Rosalyn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
As always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thank you to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.